I'd like to bring onto the stage Florijan from SPRS, who's going to talk about emission reductions and water harvesting, another really interesting topic coming up. So welcome to the stage.
Lovely greetings to you all, and thank you for having me. My name is Florijan Silic, here representing our leading technology called SPRS, Sustainable Pollution Reduction Systems. That has started with my late father way back in 1985, and we have continued working with certain parameters of the technology to get it to the place now where we can start integrating into wider industries, into environment, and start solving a lot of the issues. Emission Logistics is a family-owned research and development company, and we have chosen our logo as a green grape leaf, which is through family history been detected as the very first plant to be affected by air pollution. And that carries significant meaning to us. If I can have the next slide, please. SPRS technology is extremely well suited in complexities of entire climate change. And in this particular case, we'll talk about water, but also touch on emissions and how they come together. But we do make provision for multi-layered value chain through direct action on climate change. So in the same process, we reduce atmospheric pollution and greenhouse gases on measurable scale. We contain them into usable products, so there is absolutely zero waste. And collect large volumes of clean water at the same time, and any airborne viruses that might happen to be in that volume of emissions being moved will be treated and cleaned. Next slide, please. Over the many years, we have achieved quite significant levels of CO2 reduction. As demonstrated on one of the charts, that we can perform at well over 96% CO2 reduction, whether it is atmospheric or emissions from any chimneys, coal-fired power stations, diesel emissions. Through many years, we've kind of measured our performance against what certain targets are in relation to particularly new one with Paris Accord Agreement, and we can overachieve Australia needs in relation to that quite easily, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the same process creates byproducts that act as really fascinating plant growth accelerators. As you can see on the picture, the plant on the left has had treatment with this byproduct, and it grows a lot quicker compared to its next door neighbor that were planted at the same time, and they were exactly the same size when they were planted. While we do that, we also convert CO2 into usable products that are exceptionally lightweight, fire and heat proof, that can be used in the building industry to further enhance energy consumption or reduce the energy consumption through the properties. If I can have the next slide, please. Our impact in this particular application, looking at Australia as a dry and challenging continent, and water is a precious commodity. This project will achieve the following. It'll secure the water needs for livestock farming in Australia. It'll increase export volume and value, and simultaneously meet and exceed emission targets for Australia. Demonstrate sustainable socio-economic and ecological conduct through accountability, and it'll create well over 200,000 direct jobs. Projections for Australia in 2030 are 548.5 million tonnes of CO2. We can exceed that meet that in vicinity of 619 to 1,062 million tons of CO2 reduced per year, but at the same time make provision for over 1 billion liters of clean water that can be used directly in farming. Next slide, please. SPRS, our technology, is at the industry-ready stage. It is globally patented technology, and it presents quite a low-risk investment. What we see as market opportunities for large-scale projects that SPRS would be suited for is through partnership building and value adding in sectors of agriculture, horticulture, forestry, energy, building, mining, medical, algae and seaweed plantations, and several other integrations also that I haven't mentioned. But what we're looking at is particularly, say, in larger buildings, closed circuit ventilation, where we can quite safely treat CO2. Next slide, please. Getting to this stage, our goals for partnerships are based on core values that we have grown with, and that is to work with full accountability and transparency, achieve highest level of socioeconomic and ecological balance, maintain full focus on technology integration and sustainability, deliver multi-layered solution in complexity of climate change with global reach. Next slide, please. Our team, myself and my cousin Mark, our fathers were the ones that started this, are leading the company further. And we work together with Russell Morrison, who is a scientist who does quantification of our results and looks at the science more closely in relation to performances. Next slide, please. We have carefully analyzed our needs, and based on our technical capabilities, we're looking at $20 million over 5 years for product development and rollout of applications. We're looking for well-structured finance, business, industry, and academic development partners. Next slide, please. Thank you for your attention. Contact details are here, and feel free to get in touch and discuss potentials where SPRS can be used. I really appreciate allowing me this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Florijan.